Okay, we're continuing with this book, Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're just going in order, so we're on this name now, Henri Bergson. Okay, French guy. He said, "Fortunately, some are born with a spiritual immune system that sooner or later gives a rejection to the illusory worldview grafted upon them through birth, at birth, and through social conditioning. They begin sensing that something is amiss and start looking for answers. Inner knowledge and anomalous outer experiences show them the side of reality that others are oblivious to, and so begins the journey of awakening. Each step of the journey is made by following the heart instead of the crowd, and by choosing knowledge over veils of ignorance." Yeah, that's something I would say is big, is what the average stupid person does is they just go by what everyone else does. They think that's normal. But, an intelligent person says, what is correct? And as simple as that sounds, that's actually rare that people do that. It's so much easier to just go by convention. And for ease, you got to do that sometimes. Okay, I'll often keep the words for songs. Like here is the words for God Bless America. We used to sing that in grade school all the time. Nowadays, they probably wouldn't even let you say God in the school. So it's a nice song. He's got other good songs too. Dreaming of a White Christmas and a bunch of other good songs. Irving Berlin. Isaiah Berlin, the name sounds familiar. He said a few things a little differently. He said, "True knowledge is the knowledge of why things are as they are, not merely what they are." And that's basically, that carries over across different domains. You want to understand the causes of things. That's like Aristotle said, happiness is knowing the causes of things. Because then once you know the causes, then you can predict what's going to happen, what's going to cause what. You have some control. Okay, Isaiah Berlin. "The first people they destroy or silence are the men of ideas and free minds." Yeah. In a society where the ruler doesn't want people to be free, they shut up the smart, innovative thinkers. Okay, they don't invite them to speak, like I don't ever get invited to speak. Okay, Isaiah Berlin. "Only barbarians are not curious about where they come from, how they came to be, where they are, and where they appear to be going, whether they wish to go there, and if so, why and why not." Yeah, so it's a sign of intelligence. You ask basic questions. Okay, David Berlinski. He's a guy who writes about physics and also a little bit about evolutionary biology. And here's his quote. "Ultimately, Leibniz argued there are only two absolutely simple concepts. There is God or nothingness." And that's a valid point. So Charles Leibniz, he was one of the co-inventors of calculus with Newton. And Leibniz said basically there is either God or nothingness. And that's exactly what it comes down to. Most people simply don't understand whether or not you deserve to be free or not, whether or not you have the right to be free or whether or not you have to be a slave. All depends on whether there is a God or not, and whether or not the God says that you are created in the image of God like the Bible says. Because if there is no God, then the default setting is atheistic Darwinism, the so-called science of atheistic Darwinism, which basically says you're a talking primate, a talking monkey, you're owned by your ruler, and you must do whatever your ruler says. You have no intrinsic rights. It's so obvious. This is obvious. This is completely obvious. There's no other way to see it. But because the public doesn't understand this, the public is headed towards slavery. And, it's dangerous to be completely stupid and illiterate, because when you have such a large percentage of the people in a society stupid and illiterate, that society is pushing towards slavery. There can be no other response. It's obvious. It's painful for me to have to even say it, but I know that people don't know it, as simple as that is. Okay, now here is Anne Bernays. I think she was related to Edward Bernays. Okay, and she was a writer, a novelist, and she's a writing teacher. She says, "I can't remember how many times I advise students to stop writing the sunny hours and write from where it hurts. No one wants to read polite. It puts them to sleep." Anne Bernays, okay? "Nice writing is not enough. You have to surprise the reader frequently to provoke the reader. Use one startling adjective per page. You can teach almost anybody who's determined to learn the basics, to write sentences, to say what they want them to say. But it's far more difficult to get people to think like a writer, to give up conventional habits of mind and emotion." And that's what I've noticed, is that it's difficult to write. I mean, almost everybody's a pretty good speaker if you keep them in their own domain, familiar domain of knowledge. But very few people can write well. It takes practice, takes experience. The vocabulary is much wider what's used in writing than what's used in speech. And also, part of writing becomes personality. That's why I think you want to train somebody to write. Have them watch comedians, motivational speakers, and get a sense of what resonates with them. Because polite little wimpy talk that's not good. And you got to know something before you write to make it interesting. A lot of times the book really doesn't have anything to say and it just wastes time. Okay, Edward Bernays, he knew a lot about advertising for selling stuff, and he kind of became known as the father of public relations. Okay, so here's some of his quotes. They're kind of interesting. He says, if you can influence the leaders, either with or without their conscious cooperation, you automatically can influence the group over which they hold sway. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible goober, you know what? Mint, which is the true ruling power of a country. If one understands the mechanisms of the group mind, it is now possible to control and to regiment the masses according to the will of the controller, without the masses even knowing it. For almost every act of their lives, they are dominated by a relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires that control the public mind. We are controlled. Our minds are molded. Our tastes are formed. Our ideas are suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. And the best defense against propaganda is more propaganda. And like this for me is so obvious too. Look at Picasso. Picasso's a crappy artist, yet all people think Picasso's art is good. Okay, he stinks. Okay, look at a child could do most of what he did. Take a look at Leonardo da Vinci. Because he's promoted so much, people think he's a great artist. He could actually draw really well, but he has almost... Name one of his great paintings. His best painting, what? The Last Supper, and it's really kind of a so-so painting. Compared to Michelangelo, he's got nothing. He doesn't have one single really great work of art. And then look at the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa looks like a transvestite. I mean, it's not that appealing of a painting, yet it's considered such a great painting. Why? Because everyone's told it's a great painting. But it's not. I mean, look at it. You don't want the Mona Lisa in your room. Come on. You wouldn't want to put that up on your wall. What I'm trying to say is people just accept what they're told is good without thinking and ask themselves, is it really good or not? And that's why they allow something like these modern art museums, which are just a bunch of junk, okay, the child could do, They're worthless for laundering, you know what, dinero. Okay, Tim Berners-Lee, he's one of the co-inventors of the World Wide Web, the Internet, and he said there is a great danger that the Internet becomes a place where lies start to spread more than truth. Yeah, how about that in nutrition? Okay. So anyways, that's the quotes for today in the letter B. Hope that was helpful.